Welcome to Low Bitrate. My name's Hank.
I'm Maggie.
This week, we listened to 5 albums and did not talk to each other about them a single time.
Not once.
And we're going to reveal our blind scores to each other.
Darkthrone are a true Norwegian black metal band from Norway, obviously. This Old Star is their 18th studio album, 17th? Not 100% sure. And in recent times, they have shifted away since 2006-ish. What was that? What the fuck was that album called? The Cult is...
It's been the last 4 or 5. They've been in a completely different style from the traditional black metal that everyone knows that they put out in the 90s.
Embracing elements of crust and more traditional heavy metal, even speed metal. Old Star kind of continues in that tradition, sort of embracing some themes of classical doom and things of that nature. So, here we go.
3, 2, 1. What is that?
No, hell yes! Alright, fuck yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this was boring as fuck.
Yeah, totally. It's kind of a shame though, because I thought there were parts of it that detached the furthest from their traditional black metal style.
Yeah.
Were the best parts of it.
Totally. What is that second track called?
Yes, the second track.
Yeah,
absolutely. The end of it, especially where it opens up with the cymbals a whole bunch.
The hardship of the Scots.
Also, the doomiest track, the title track, Old Star, is pretty decent. I just think most of the more Sabbathy doom stuff comes off super robotic and really boring.
Darkthrone have always kind of, I mean their first album ever was a death metal album, if I recall, and so they've always sort of kind of taken influence from throughout the lineage of metal a little bit. What I don't really want from Darkthrone at this stage in their career is a really competent heavy metal album.
Yeah,
because
totally.
there are totally enjoyable parts of this album, and and there's some definite head nodders, and there's some really nice kind of heshy moments of this thing, but by and large, it's just not what I'm interested in hearing from a band like Darkthrone at this stage in their career, especially when they were doing really interesting crust stuff, even just a decade ago. So they're obviously, they're two guys that have been playing together for years and years and years and years. Obviously,
you can hear that. It's tight.
They're tight as fuck,
yeah.
But the songwriting is just not there for me. They almost kind of fall prey to the same sorts of problems that a lot of bands that are trying to kind of ape on traditional doom are doing lately, which is just having really repetitive, plodding, single riff kind of songs.
The drumming too is just so I get that he's trying to go for the plodding, big heavy drumming, but there's no ring in the cymbals really, and the bass drum is way more thuddy and clicky than you would hear in most doom records, I think.
Definitely.
So it just kind of comes off really spaced out. Also, the solos are whack.
Oh yeah,
the
they're
solos are so bad on
really
this.
boring, just kind of pentatonic, same...
Just shreddy bullshit.
Yeah.
If you're a fan, that's good with me, because I definitely don't think this is abhorrently bad or anything
no,
like
not
that.
At all.
It's just kind of boring.
Fenriz, get back into politics.
Future is an Atlanta rapper who deals in trap.
Future as an artist is sort of known for a couple of different things. His very kind of melancholic approach to trap. His lyrics tend to be very introspective. I have no idea what you thought of this. I truly cannot figure it out.
I'm weirdly nervous for this one.
Really? 3, 2,
1.
Are you? Is that
6?
It's a 6. A 4?
That's not too far.
Yeah, that's
I was so afraid you were going to put an 8, and I would actually have to come up with reasons to say I don't like this. Because my reasons for not liking it are pretty much that I just think it's super boring.
Yeah,
And the production is really bad.
That's false.
I think it's so bad.
You're so not correct about that.
No, 100%. All you can hear in every track is the core, the drums and his vocals, and all the samples are so low in the mix.
Did you listen with headphones?
Yes, of course.
That's absurd.
They're just blinking along way deep under the mix, and it sounds so breathy and tinny. None of the tracks had any weight to me. Government Official's pretty good, and the last track is pretty good.
Future has been doing essentially the same thing for his entire career, right? Which is these same kind of, same druggy beats, same lyrical themes, same kind of stuff. He's always had these kind of little moments of profundity lyrically. He's funny. And
some of the lyrics are pretty funny.
Yeah,
I have to say that.
But that being said, it's the
it's the same. I'm not even that familiar with Future, but I've already heard this before.
And I guess where we probably differ on that a little bit is that I am just so sort of enamored by Future's production choices, by his he has really off-kilter flows that I think are really interesting to listen to. I like his lyrics, and I've just liked so many of his previous projects that this, to me, while it is a continuation of sort of what he's been doing, I like what he's been doing enough to want more of it.
I guess I'm not deep enough in the trap game to be able to appreciate...
You're not in the trap game at all.
No, I'm like a half a foot into the trap
Even
game.
a little bit. No, but yeah, I mean... I guess I'm just kind of struggling to see your point a little bit because like I'm thinking about like on Please Tell Me, right, which is the third track. It's got those really, I mean obviously it's got the blown out bass that's so part of this genre, but I thought those like really wispy flutes and like all of that
They're
stuff.
Just way too low in the mix. I know exactly what you're talking about, but it's just so like in the background. It feels like detached from the rest of the songs. The main ones are the second track. I think there's a really nice little kind of doodly-doo thing in the background that you can barely hear.
Lucia.
That I think is really cool. And Government Official has some shit like that too.
Sure.
That just like feels so pulled apart from the mix, and it's hard for me to really fall into the kind of like hazy, drug-induced world that it's trying to get you into when it just feels like there's so many gaps in between all the tracks in the mix.
Obviously, I only gave it a 6, so like I don't think it's anything phenomenal or anything. Like I don't know why I'm getting riled up about you not loving this. But I almost sort of disagree with you in that I like the first 4 tracks a lot better than the latter half.
Really, that's like exactly the opposite for me.
I really the intro. The intro track Zanny was great.
Yeah, those ones are, the intro and although I think I like Government Official the most out of everything on the album, the intro tracks were definitely the most distinct, and I appreciated that a lot more. Like I remember when I heard the first track, I was like pretty surprised at how different it was from everything else I've heard that he'd done, but then it just kind of fell into the same kind of shit after that, I thought.
No, I mean, I empathize with your, like, what you don't like about this album, but I guess I am just still so on board with the Future projects that I'm willing to look past some of those flaws.
Yeah.
Alright. Up next is Ramleh. Ramleh's The Great Unlearning. Ramleh are I guess currently 3-piece plus some more experimental music outlet from the United Kingdom. And they are known for a lot of different genres, but most frequently power electronics and I guess what you might call pseudo-noise rock, maybe with some krautrock in it.
Oh yeah, they've been all over the place. This one is pretty different from anything else they've ever released.
Their probably most notable record is 1987's Hole in the Heart.
Absolutely.
Which is a genre-defining death industrial album.
One of the best you'll ever hear.
Nearly perfect.
3, 2, 1! Was that 7?
Yeah.
6? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised, honestly. I thought you would rate it a little lower than
Really?
that. Yeah.
Why?
Just because I think there's a lot of just like noodly bullshit on this album.
We were just complaining about this with regard to Old Star, kind of the plotting repetitiveness of some of that album.
Yeah.
And while this album is 100% too long.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like an hour 13.
But there is just a lot to like about this album.
Yeah, there's some really good shit, I thought, for sure. Like the track Blood Aurora is like some of the best like spooky industrial noisy shit I've heard in a long time. It's so good. My personal favorite shit on this entire album, however, is largely the parts that like adhere closest to like psych rock. Almost. Yeah, the noisy rock shit.
Like No Music for These Times specifically. It's like a whacked out, like super druggy Spaceman 3 take on like the industrial kind of noise sound that they're known for. Really like a lot of those moments.
The last track I think is really good too.
Definitely.
It's like so catchy for what I would expect from this album.
Totally, and like the I guess what you would call the lead single, "Your Village Has Been Erased,"
Sounds pretty good
is a bop.
Yeah.
There's some I think
most of the shit with vocals is good. I think
absolutely
pretty much everything that has vocals in it is solid.
The Twitch, all 8 minutes of that second track, I was fucking hooked. Like
That's kind of where I differ a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
It's not because it's less that the repetitious parts and the like kind of plodding, thudding along, like hammering into your brain kind of shit. But so many of these tracks just have like a random guitar in the background going like,
sure.
And I can't deal with that shit. I think that totally breaks the immersion.
I think what has me more engaged with this album as opposed to Old Star is that texturally this is a lot more interesting to me. Old Star has a really slick, produced kind of sound to it comparatively. This is a lot more like organic. It's got a much deeper kind of undercurrent of menace going through the whole thing. I really love a lot of the production choices, particularly what they do.
Yeah, the production is solid for sure.
And I think it's another one of these cases where we have a band that certainly by all metrics has license to do projects like this where they can just wank on endlessly forever.
Yeah.
But I still find the majority of it to be uniquely compelling.
Yeah.
In a way that I think a lot of other noise rock acts aren't.
It's not all noodly bullshit. There's some really like straightforward, tight playing on this too.
Definitely. But I think if you have the patience for this kind of thing and you're like willing to sit down and like maybe slog through some longer stuff, there's a lot here for you to pick apart.
There's enough good tracks to give it at least one listen. Next up is the new Buck Young release, which will be debuting in September. Buck Young is I guess it's a side project or new project?
It's a project.
Yeah, a project of one man named Jason Krumer, who has been popping in the noise and power electronics scene for quite a while now.
Buck Young in particular, this is the second release by that project. It's long.
It's a lot of sound collage stuff.
It's country influenced, and I'm very interested to see what you have to say about this.
Insane. 3, 2, 1. Is that 8?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, this album's great.
I thought it was really, really, really good.
Yeah,
I really
sure.
enjoyed it. This isn't just like an 8 either. This is like an 8. Yeah, I really have not heard a lot of albums, much less noise albums like this one. The whole thing has just kind of a seedy, like X-rated Western vibe.
Yeah, it's very eclectic. There's a lot of different kind of styles on here. Everything from just like super basic country songs, essentially, to really wild, kind of hazy sound collage-y sort of shit.
Yeah.
The sound collage shit, especially, I was super impressed with because it's really like tight and it's not boring at all. People sometimes talk about that one Caretaker album, An Empty Bliss, as being like a sort of like nostalgic representation of the 30s that like an Alzheimer's patient might have. And you could kind of say the same thing about this, except more in like the early 50s white hat, black and white cowboy movie sort of thing,
And you're right in that it does really carry a sort of almost nostalgic vibe.
Yeah.
But it's also very clearly born of a deep, deep love of country music and of westerns.
Absolutely. This isn't just like some surface level, like, wouldn't it be hilarious if we did a country album?
But it's also noise?
Yeah.
Like, this is a really seamless fusion of like really experimental music and country and folk music.
Yeah, one thing I was like terrified going into this was just like jamming in some like guitar and vocal kind of basic country tracks just for the sake of doing it. And there is some of those on here, but they're also some of the best tracks.
Absolutely, 100%. Zoe Burke's vocals tend to take the lead on those tracks, and they are pretty uniformly some of my favorites.
Yeah, the ballad. That was so good.
The what is it? The
Ballad of Bruce McLean. That song's awesome.
Takes place in our home state in the horrible northern town of Havre, Montana.
Yeah.
Really phenomenal kind of talking blues sort of tale about train hopping and drinking whiskey and getting in trouble in northern Montana.
One of the most impressive parts of that song, I think, is when it starts. I don't know about you, but I instantly sort of envisioned like a classic country western kind of town, you know?
Yeah.
And then halfway through, it's just like, and then we met this guy, and he said his son got hurt in Afghanistan.
Yeah. No.
Out of nowhere.
It has and that is the biggest thing that I think this album succeeds at is referencing the country music of old while still not attempting to like have that be overbearing stylistically. Like it's very much it's not only is it a modern noise album, it's a modern country album. It's a deeply emotional album. It's never hokey, save for well, we should talk about that song.
Yeah.
Long Distance Phone Call.
That's the worst one, I think.
I think
that or Scorpion, just because it's really long.
Yeah, sure, but I Long Distance Phone Call I think really only has that one line about sliding into the DMs.
And you left me on red.
Yeah. You know, it doesn't. I understand the intent. It just doesn't necessarily work for me the way that some of the other like way more honest and kind of heartfelt songs do.
Yeah. It kind of crosses the border a bit because I actually think this album is. I would describe it as maybe a little hokey, but in a really endearing and good way.
Sure.
Because I feel like if you're like a real like no nonsense like tough guy kind of Jason Krumer fan, then this might turn you off a little. But I think if you like have a little imagination and can kind of freak yourself out a little bit, then you'll have a ton of fun with this for sure.
The other thing that I really feel as if we need to talk about is the penultimate track, Where Do You Want It, which has, which is where of course the album title comes from. Really excellent kind of spoken word piece about shooting a guy that fucked your ex-wife outside of a bar.
Yeah, his cousin.
His cousin, excuse me. Yeah. Really, really excellent storytelling. I think if you like country music, I think if you also like experimental music, this is one you need to watch out for.
Yeah, and I honestly think this one could be a genre tourist's album.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's like there are some abrasive parts, but it's pretty minimal in terms of like ear-splitting tracks. And if you're a fan of the more like textural and kind of wavy, pleasing to the ear side of experimental music, this is a good bridge, I think, to get into the little tougher stuff.
And I could talk about this album for fucking hours.
Yeah.
I really like it.
It was really good.
I think you're gonna really like it. Give it a listen when it comes out in fucking 4 months. So J. Paul was a big fucking deal in the early aughts, and J. Paul was a hot commodity as far as this sort of London underground pop electronic kind of scene was burgeoning, and unfortunately, what wound up happening was, as he was sort of putting together what was to be his debut album, somebody leaked the album onto Bandcamp and charged for it, and the versions of the songs that were leaked were pretty much all uniformly what you would consider unfinished. From what I understand, the vocals are largely scratch takes. The instrumental, there's some kind of rough mixing. So this is a version that, from what I understand, was reconstructed from an archive of his studio takes.
3, 2, 1. It's 8. Yeah.
That's 100% what I expected from you.
That's
Actually,
a good album.
Yeah, it's a good album.
I feel bad because the majority of the problems I have with it are completely related to its nebulous release history.
Sure,
100%.
Definitely. Yeah. Like what?
Like, you can really tell a lot of the vocals are scratch takes. Mm-hmm. And you can really tell some of the places where they had to drop some sample or something like that, where the mix just kind of feels a bit dry or empty for a moment. But that being said, the bops on this album are bops.
Absolutely, dude. I like the inclusion of a lot of the little 30-second snippets of, what's that one track?
Raw Beat.
Good Time, Raw Beat, things like that. Yeah, I think like those are really fun moments, and truthfully, are really interesting precursors to what a lot of artists are currently embracing now, which is the really short, brief runtime on an album. There are so many like genuinely sublime pop moments on this thing. 100,000 has those really towering, cascading waves of synths.
I am so impressed with that track and BTSTU for having such a like jagged, like sharp, angular core to the track, but somehow being huge headbangers at the same time.
Absolutely, still really manages to it's so representative of an era, but at the same time it feels so timeless, you know?
Yeah.
Like, of course it makes sense that, like, in the immediate aftermath of this thing leaking, artists like Beyonce were lashing onto it, right? Because, like, when you listen to it, it's like, okay, I could see somebody listening to this, especially somebody who's younger, and being like, okay, this just kind of sounds like pop music.
Yeah.
Because its influence is so clear, and yet, like, in 2013, and especially in 2010, when those two demos were you know, kind of first coming into the fore, like, this was future music, you know? If you're into, you know, the kind of electronic music that XL has, you know, kind of made a name for itself in terms of what they've been putting out, this is a really excellent record. And if you haven't heard it, like I hadn't, you're still in for a really pleasant surprise. I don't think there's a lot to knock here.
Yeah, 100%. Even if you don't typically listen to music like this, just go listen to it, because it's pretty monumental as a piece of music in the age of the internet. Alright, before we go, we decided we were going to end each episode by just talking about some shit we like. This week, I revisited the Cadaver Dog record that came out last year. Cadaver Dog is a hardcore band from Denver, and if you like hardcore music and missed this release, check it out, because there's this dope flash game called Gunblood that I played a lot in high school that I just found again. And it's so fun, and if you can beat my high score, it's like 304.
This week, I have been really into City Hunter's Deep Blood, another Youth Attack album that came out last, like, October, I think. They're also from Denver. Denver's fucking popping as far as hardcore is going these days. City Hunter is a kind of 80s slasher-obsessed hardcore band, but not in a cutesy fucking like 80s revivalism kind of It Follows Stranger Things way. This is brutal. This is like shot on video, grimy, X-rated kind of horror movie worship. Check it out if you like either of those things. I've also been playing The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. I've never finished a Zelda game. I played about half of Ocarina of Time on the 3DS, and then I sold it for rent money. So this is my first kind of full-length Zelda experience. I'm about 20 hours into it now, so hopefully it'll be fucking over soon. As far as it goes in relation to other Zelda games, I have no idea. It's a little easy, but atmospherically, story-wise, mechanically, it's a very interesting game. Finally, I want to recommend a project that a friend of mine named Seamus put out recently. It's called Youth of Tonight. It is, you can buy, I think you can still buy lathe cuts of it. It is a black metal Youth of Today cover project. They do 2 tracks, including a personal favorite Youth of Today track of mine, Make a Change. It's hilarious, it's very funny. It's one of those things that's going to be sold on Discogs for like $900 someday. So that's what I got. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to be doing this every week, I guess. So
we'll also start doing some themed episodes that are based around basically whatever we want. That's
basically whatever we want.
Yeah, that's different.
Fuck you if you don't like it.
Maybe a band we've never listened to before. Maybe a genre that needs a little more attention. You know, whatever.
Whatever. This has been Low Bitrate, episode 1. See you next week.